Do you like your blanket? He wants to try it on. Hold on. Let's try it on. You want to try it on? Let's see. Do you like it? He loves it, right? Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 181 of the Love in Stitches podcast. I have just barely convinced a little toaster here to, oh my gosh. I was gonna say, just barely convinced him to get into the frame and I thought he was gonna leave. I tried to entice him with the blanket here and today he hopped up on the bed and forcefully sat on the other side. I had to convince him to come over here to try to be within shot of the camera. I guess he doesn't, maybe he wants a raise or something. I don't know. It is definitely warmed up here in New York City. I had such a wonderful past week getting to spend a lot of time outside, but enjoyably outside, not too hot. Yesterday it got up to the 80s and I was like, maybe we can dial it back a little bit, kind of like the 70s and the 60s. When it's sunny, it makes it really, really nice to enjoy the city. I got to go to the park this week. Oh, it was just all so, so great. I have done a ton of knitting and crochet this weekend, thanks to a few extra days off and a long weekend away. I'm so excited to share with you my finished objects and a new project that I started. So let's get right into it. First up, I have finished my Yarn Cozy sock set. So all of these cozies are my mini Yarn Cozy pattern. There are two 50-gram size and one 20-gram size, but these come together in the same pattern. And we are doing the cozy along for the month of May. So this was my goal. My only goal was to make these cozies and they're already done. So I feel really, really good about that. The past week I made this 50-gram cozy, finished it up, and this 20-gram cozy. These worked up so fast. I think I finished this one, started and finished this one in a matter of 24 hours, thanks to just a lot of different Zoom meetings and things that I had going on. And then walking back and forth to and from Pilates, I finished this one so fast. I think I might have wanted to pay attention to my own pattern a little bit more because I probably could have used a couple more rows on this one, but it still does fit and I'm really happy with the way that they came out. So this yarn was found in my scrap drawer. I'm also still working through scraps this year and wanting to finish up as many leftovers, mini skeins and things as possible. And I found what these yarns were from. So this main color here is Long Dog yarn in the colorway First Blush, and it is still a colorway that they dye. And then this really fun contrast, which I only ended up using on one of them, it picks up the neon speckles that were in this yarn. This one is from Leading Men Fiber Arts and it's called Electric Avenue. And this one is still dyed by Leading Men Fiber Arts as well, which is really cool because both of these were for projects that I did 4 to 5 years ago, and so it's cool to find that these colorways are still available. So I wanted to make a set of cozies that matched and went together for socks. So these, you can see I've got two cakes in here, but this is a 50-gram cake and then a second 50-gram cake. And I like doing these slightly different. That's why one has a contrast edge, so that I can tell the difference between my first and second sock. And just in case I'm knitting them and I'm getting them up to the same point, I guess it's not probably that big of a deal to be able to tell them apart when they're two separate items. But I know that people will do the same thing when they're making even the 100-gram cozies, so that if they're alternating yarns within a project and it's two of the same exact colors, there is a distinguisher that tells you what is different about the two skeins, which one's one and which one's two. So this is perfect for those 50-gram cakes or if you split a 100-gram cake. And then this of course is for the contrast color, and they all are a little family. I thought I might put the contrast on this one as well, but I think I like how this is. I love this color, this Electric Avenue color. It is so fun. I still have probably 30 grams of it, so I'm probably just gonna hang on to it and keep working it a little bit more and a little bit more. I do have some left over of this, but it's not much. I haven't weighed it yet to see exactly how much is left, but I do remember I had 27 total grams before I started all these cozies. So with all of these cozies, I use less than 27 grams because I still have some left over. Once I grab that skein, it's on my coffee table now. I should have weighed it. I'll update it in my project page just so that I can have info about how much each cozy took. I want to say it was about 14 grams, but that doesn't seem right, does it? Because that would be 14 and 14 would be 28. So you know what? I'll just update it in the project page and then I don't have to share the wrong information and you can check it there. But I'm really, really pleased with how these came out. They knit up super, super fast. I don't know if I'm going to be making any more yarn cozies in the month of May because I now have a bunch of other projects that have come into the mix that are ready for on-the-go knitting, but I probably won't ever stop knitting yarn cozies. They're just the best project when you need something quick and satisfying. This next project is the big one, the moment that at least I have been waiting for. I am so excited that my Quadrophenia blanket is finally done. I am really, really happy with the way that this project came out. I am just so pleased with everything about it. It was fun to make. It was fun to put together. I think I'm going to enjoy using it and I'm just really, really pleased with it. So let me back up. We'll do the big reveal and then I'll share with you how the last week has been on this project. So this is Quadrophenia. Oh, I gotta step way back. By K.F. Jones. And it is a small blanket that is knit in 4 pieces. So it's knit in 4 triangles and then seamed together. And I use a, what is it called? An Advent, a Christmas Advent, Fangirl Fibers Disney Advent Calendar from 2021 to put this together. And this pattern is designed specifically for Advent mini skeins, and so that you can use up as much of the yarn as possible. So all throughout, I was weighing my yarn and seeing, you know, okay, how much do I need to complete another 2 rows? And then using up as much yarn as I could. I really enjoyed working with this. It was so much fun. And I have added even more details to my project page about all of the colors and all of the things. I have taken a picture where I put the names, like the name cards of each of the colors next to the colors in their section so that that is online somewhere for me to look back at, for others to look back at, so I can remember all of the names and then I can let go of all of those color cards. So I'm really, really pleased with that. But the way that we arrange things, because Kent helped me with this, is starting at the center. We basically, like, see how this is a group of 4, these 4 triangles? Each group, like starting in the center and going out, was a different area of the park, and it represented, starting center out, how we typically move throughout the park when we go for a visit. So I think all of this stuff in the middle is like Main Street, and then it moves to maybe Adventureland, and then, like, I don't know, I can't remember. It's going to be all in the photos on my project page. But I did want to share with you a little bit about the finishing. So this pattern, the knitting itself is relatively simple. It is super quick to memorize, very easy to do, and just such a great long-term knit. I think just something to be working on, very comfortable and all of that. Actually, you know what would be interesting to see? When did I start this project? I need to be better about sharing that because I think it's always interesting to see, like, not that it's a race or anything, but it is satisfying in a way to look back and be like, wow, I really have done a lot in the last X amount of time. So I started this project on March 20th, and today is now May 17th, so about 2 months. And the last week or so has really been finishing, but that counts. That's part of the project anyway. What I was gonna say though is that I am really happy with the way that I have been working on this project over the last week, because what I wanted to do is just barrel through and like finish this thing. I wanted to bind it off, I wanted to weave in the ends, I wanted it to be done, because my original goal was to finish it by the end of April, and I didn't get it finished by the end of April. Now it's May 17th, and it doesn't bother me. Like, I'm not upset with myself. I'm actually realizing that because I really took my time over the last week, I have enjoyed finishing this project even more. I have actually taken my time and care to do a better job finishing it, I think, than I would have if I was just trying to be like, all right, I said I was gonna get it done by this day and I'm late, now let me just finish it and get it done. And I feel like this is adding to me enjoying the final product more, because I actually got to enjoy finishing it, whereas my personality is one where I'm like, okay, great, we did it. What's the next goal? What's the next thing? Like, I don't even let myself enjoy or celebrate finishing something, whether it's a project or like something else that I've done in my life. So this slow kind of finishing that I've allowed myself, or has just happened to me, I've realized that it's actually really, really nice. So just sharing that in case you feel similarly about like, I just want to get this project done. Maybe it is a good thing to be a little bit slower with it. I actually have one set of ends still to weave in. I was planning to do that on my break. Usually I take a break every day, talk to my mom as she drives into work, and today the world had other plans for me and I was running around trying to track down a package. So I'll get these finished at lunchtime today. I'm still calling it finished. I'm still calling it good. But just in case you see me hold it up and you're like, wait, there's some ends. I know, they're almost done. They are almost done. So finishing this blanket. Beautiful, amazing tutorials from Kay. The knitting is really easy. That's what I was talking about before I went on that tangent about slow finishing. I don't think you need really a tutorial for the knitting part of this, but the way that this is all put together, it can be kind of trickier. Seaming it together, there was a big hole in the center that needed to be closed, and then weaving in the ends. And Kay had a tutorial for every single one. I followed her tutorials exactly on how to seam it, on how to close up the hole in the center. I did something a little different with weaving in the ends, although I realized it was pretty similar to what Kay did. So I took each of the spots where there was 2 yarns together and made a small knot that you can't see at all because there's a selvage here. There we go. I have some new camera settings, so I'm still trying to get used to them. So this selvage is on the back of the blanket, and I tied a small knot, and then I would take the color, those are too hard to tell apart, I think, but I would take the color that went with like the one above and weave it in the selvage, and the one that went down below and weave it in the selvage. And I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. I thought about knitting over all my ends as I made this, because thinking about all the different colors, 24 colors, you've got 2 ends for each color, and then of course you have ends for doing the finishing and the border and all of that stuff. So I thought, you know, I could just make this easier on myself and knit over the ends as I add new colors in. But the pattern said that they recommend not doing that because of the finishing, and I'm really glad that I didn't do that and that I waited until the end to weave in all the ends, because now instead of having ends coming out in my blanket, all the ends are tucked into these seams on the back. And I'll show you one that's already done. That would make more sense. All the ends are into these seams, and I don't think you'll notice or see them, and I think they will stay more secure too. So I'm so pleased with it. It came out so good. I've got a picture of it all laid out so that you can see what it looks like, and of course I have those other photos of all of the different colors, but I also wanted to show you the size. So I took a picture with this on my lap, and it's not a huge blanket. I've actually yet to measure it, so I'll make sure to put that into my project page notes, and maybe if we have it in time, we can put it here in some text for you. But it is just long enough. If I am laying with my legs straightened out, it can cover my feet up to like the crease of my hips. So not a super big blanket, but it did block out so much bigger than I thought it was going to, and I'm really happy with it. And when I'm sitting down like I am right now, I mean, this blanket is covering my entire lap and like most of my legs almost touching the floor. So I think this is going to be one of those blankets that will be good when I'm sitting cross-legged on the couch, or maybe I'll kind of take it on trips with me. It can be with me in the car and cover me up. But it really turned out to be, let's see what happens when I do this. I mean, it's square, so it can kind of do this. And I mean, look, it's kind of coming together in the center here and on my back. I mean, I think this is going to be really versatile. I knew originally when I was picking out what to do with this yarn, I was thinking about making a shawl, but I wanted it to be a shawl blanket, something that I could use to put over my lap, to put over my shoulders. And then I realized if I want to make it a shawl that's going to be a blanket, I should just make a blanket. So I'm really glad with how this came out. I knew this wouldn't be a set of colors that would be something to fit into my everyday wardrobe. So making it into a blanket has now made it something that I can use in my everyday because it is a blanket and it is fun colors, and man, I really like it. I'm so happy with how this thing came out. So the only thing I really changed about this is the finishing. I decided I wanted to do a border that looked a little more finished than just binding off. And I decided to do an I-cord. So I did the I-cord with a different color and a different yarn. So this I-cord is from Moonglow Yarn Company, and it is the colorway Cottonwood Breeze, which you've seen me use quite a lot. And shockingly, this border, first of all, I did an entire knit round all the way around the blanket after I had seamed the pieces. I've got details about all that on my project page. So I seamed the pieces almost to the ends. I then did a knit round all the way around the blanket. That's where it was last week when it had all these crazy needles in it. So each side still had a needle in it, and then I used a 5th needle to like do that knit round, so everything was joined. And then I used a what's it called, double pointed needle to do the I-cord bind off with 3 stitches, and I think it came out just perfect. I mean, it's barely noticeable kind of far away, but it's just enough of a finished edge. And it also meant that I could use as much of this 6th color on each segment as I wanted to, because I didn't need to save any for the bind off. So I think it just came out so beautiful. It looks very nice and rounded on each corner. There's one corner where I had to seam together. Where is it? Of course, it's the last one that I'm gonna find. Right here. I think it still looks fine. I try to get pretty close, and it just all came out so good. So extensive notes again about this project are on my Ravelry page. I am so pleased with everything. I couldn't recommend the pattern more. I think the tutorials, the idea alone is worth the pattern, and then the tutorials that come with it are super great. You can only get them through purchasing the pattern. So if you're looking for something to do with a really fun advent or even scrappy leftovers, I would say go for this. Oh, and that's what I was going to say about the border. I was getting somewhere, wasn't I? Tangents today. This border, the one round and the entire I-cord bind off, which by the way, took me 4 days because I did it in parts. I just did like one side one day, stop, one side the next day. I just really took my time with it. It took less than 20 grams. I am shocked. Honestly, I could not believe it. With all of this I-cord, less than 20 grams. I mean, I think it took about 17 or 18 grams, so close to 20, but I just could not believe that that's all that I needed. All right, Quadrophenia, it's time to, once I get those ends, fold this guy up. I think we'll put him on the back of the chair, and I am gonna use this thing all of the time. with Quadrophenia coming to an end, it was time for me to start my next blanket. So just kind of painting the entire picture here, my goal for the first 6 months of the year, and we're in the 5th month now, is to use up all of my scraps and leftovers and mini skeins. So I had several Advent sets that I was working through. I finished now 3 blankets this year, and I have started my 4th and final one that I have planned for my scrap-free 2023. So I did start this before I finished Quadrophenia, and I felt really, really good about it. That's something that I would not in the past like let myself do. I would, again, push through to the end of a project to just get it done, just so I could start the next one, and then I would lose that sense of satisfaction of finishing a project. And also, when you finish a project at the same time that you're starting one, sometimes it's too much thinking, I feel like, in one day. So I have a lot of overlap with these blankets, but it wasn't overwhelming. It just felt really, really good. So you saw the start of this last week, but I have made some massive progress. So let me show you the progress I've made, and then we'll talk a little bit more about project details here. So this is the, oh my God, it looks so cool, is the Crochet Advent Baby Blanket by Lucienne Crochet. And I am crocheting this out of another Advent from Fangirl Fibers. This one is a 31-day Pokemon Advent from July of 2022. It's also a different base than this Quadrophenia, so it's kind of fun to switch things up. I'm switching the craft, I'm obviously switching the pattern, and switching the base, and it's just been, it's been so much fun. I went absolutely wild this weekend working on this. My goal for this blanket is to finish it by the end of May, and with crochet, it covers so much more ground than knitting. I don't know if crochet is necessarily faster, but it definitely produces more fabric more quickly. Most of the time, at least in this case, it definitely is. So this blanket, I am mostly following the pattern here, except for a few key changes that I have made. So one, the original pattern has 24 minis, so it's again made for Advent patterns, and 1 main skein. And in between each mini skein color, you work a row, or maybe 2, I'm not sure, with the main color. But since I have 31 colors, I didn't want to do that main skein. I don't have one, first of all, but I also knew my blanket would be tall enough without having those that main skein. So I am doing instead just 31 colors straight in a row with no mini skein in between. I also realized that when I was swatching, I liked a fabric and a needle or a hook size that was producing a gauge a little bit bigger than the pattern called for. So I've actually reduced the number of stitches because I didn't want to run out of my yarn. Turns out that probably wasn't as big of a deal as I thought, but I reduced the stitch count by, I believe, a full repeat or 2. I think it was like, let me see. I wrote it in my project page. Again, I have extensive photos and details of these projects because I don't want to forget anything that I've done, and I want to have all the notes for all of you and for myself if I ever need to make it again. So I started with, first of all, I started with a larger hook, a size E, and then I'm working the whole rest of it on a D, and I reduced my cast on by 38 stitches. That's quite a lot, and that's 38 stitches for each row that I have not to do from the original pattern, so it's working up really, really quickly, and I think the size of it is really good. So this blanket is finally Toaster's blanket. What do you think, buddy? Can you see his little face? Do you like your blanket? He wants to try it on. Hold on, let's try it on. You want to try it on? Let's see. Do you like it? He loves it, right? You love your blankie? Anyway, it's gonna be plenty wide for Toaster. It is meant to be a baby blanket or pet blanket, so it's definitely a smaller size. Oh, let me straighten things up here. And now that I am a third of the way through, this right here to the white color is 10 colors. I believe if we multiply that by 3, that this blanket will also be plenty long. I need to do the measurements and everything, but I think it will be quite perfect. So I am really, really happy with how this is working up. So let's talk colors, because I would love to update you on all of the colors that I have worked on in the past week. I'm also doing mostly daily updates on Instagram. So if you like to see this or any of my other projects as they develop, I'm pulling out a new color, I'm showing the Pokemon card or color that it comes with and all of that. I've got all the yarns bagged with their identifier cards in my big project bag. And every week I am winding up with my ball winder the cakes that I need. So yesterday or 2 days ago, I sat down and I just wound up my next 10 mini skeins while I had the ball winder out. I put them in their cozies. I have just enough cozies. I think I have 11 20-gram cozies now with all the ones that I've made. And so I have just enough to put all the cakes into little cozies, and that's just making things so much easier for me. So the last 10 or 11, actually I have 11 next week because there's 31 colors, are not wound yet. I cannot wait to get to the pink. That's the end of the blanket. And then the ones that I've already done, I've been putting the leftovers back in here. So I'll talk about that here in just a second. Let's do the colors first. Oh yeah, here's the next ones I have for this week ready to go. I'm feeling confident about getting my 10 colors done this week, my 11 colors done next week. I think that this blanket is going to be finished in the month of May. I'm feeling really confident about that. So yes, colors. Let's talk about it. And actually I can use the little leftovers to show you rather than the blanket itself. Wait, I feel like I'm missing, hold on. I don't think I pulled out the very first one. Oh yes, here it is. Okay, so starting at the beginning, because last week I had what, maybe one color done. So let's just start from the beginning and then we'll be caught up, and next week I can do a little bit more. Okay, so starting at the bottom of the blanket, we started with the normal type Pokemon, and the next 4 are all normal type Pokemon. So these are all in groups of 5, in groups of 5, which I think is really, really cute. So we had Eevee. We then had, let's see here, I think it was Ditto. And I do have photos with all the colors together with the yarns. I've learned since doing my other project that it's nice to go ahead and take all those photos before I wind things up. So those are all on my project page too. So you'll always be able to find Snorlax. And I also numbered these on the back when I originally packaged this and put it away. And then the last one is, what's it called? Oh, Porygon-Z. So that was the first set that I completed this last week. Let me put these back away. I'll tell you again why I'm keeping these all still sorted out like this in just a moment. Okay, so then we moved into another Pokemon type. Let me make sure I got the right one. We moved into the fire type. I think that there is going to be another Pokemon Advent from Fangirl Fibers. If not, maybe it's sold already. So definitely follow them on Instagram. Growlithe. I mean, so fun, right? We have Charizard. We have Cyndaquil. I really liked this color. This one is so fun. It's got like neon pops and stuff in it. So pretty. And then Scorbunny. Super fun. Okay, so that was all last week. And then this week I have just started getting into my colors. So I think I will save them and show you the next 10 colors next week just to keep it easy. But you can also go and look on my Ravelry project page if you want to see all of the colors and all of the names right at this moment. So see how I have quite a bit of yarn left over of each color? My original plan was to, as I finished, just make all of these into a magic knot ball and add it to my other magic knot ball when I was done. But for my magic knot ball, I usually have less yarn than this. I probably have like, maybe it's 2 or less, or fewer or less, 2 grams or less. And these are over 5 grams, so like 5.5 grams each. So I just thought, you know, that's a lot of yarn to not use in another project. Like, it's not, this yarn is being used in the baby blanket. That's the original project. I think it needs one more before it goes into a magic knot ball. And so I thought, what can I do with this project? I asked on Instagram. You all gave lots of great suggestions, like from cowls to hats to socks, scrappy socks, all kinds of things. And then I started thinking, you know, why did I get this advent calendar in the first place? And it's because Kent, my husband, really likes Pokemon. But with all the different colors, we didn't really think there was anything practical for him that I could make that he would really like. It's not big enough to make a blanket for him, although now I guess I could have made another Quadrophenia. So we just decided I would make something for Toaster, and then that way he could see it, I could see it, we could all enjoy it. So with this leftover yarn, me having over 5 grams for each one, the only one I don't have 5 grams of is the cast on color. And that one I have about 4.5, so 1 gram less than the other ones. Oh, I also thought about maybe I should make the blanket bigger because I have enough yarn. So I thought I could add an extra row because there are 4 rows of each color. So if I have 5 grams left, that means that there's definitely enough to do 1 more row. I thought, oh, I could make the blanket wider, but then I realized, like, I don't need it to be wider. I don't need it to be longer. I don't really want to make it bigger just for the sake of using more yarn. So I had an idea for another project. And so many of you had the same idea too. It was so funny. So I thought, okay, I need something to make for Kent. I need something to use yarn. What can I do? And this is the idea that I came up with, and I'm so excited about it. I have decided to make Kent another Musselburgh hat, which, if you remember, oh wait, I need to grab a Musselburgh. Hold on, I have one right here. There's a video coming up next week all about Musselburgh hats. So if you have been liking these, you're gonna get a whole bunch of tips about them. So Musselburgh hat is one of those that folds up inside. It's a double layer. So I thought what would be really, really fun for Kent is to use all of the colors in the same color order as I have them here. Uh-oh, I just dropped my yarn. As 1/2 of the hat. Then on the other half of the hat, I will make that one just one solid color. So this way, if he wants to have all the fun and wild colors on the outside, he can. But if he wants to have just a plain hat with kind of like a fun surprise inside, he can wear the solid color on the outside. So I talked with Emily of Fangirl Fibers. I asked if she still had this base, if she dyes black yarn, because Kent doesn't have a black hat from me yet. So he thought black would be really great. And she's like, actually, I do. I've got black yarn. I'm gonna send it to you right away. So I have on the way to me now a black skein of yarn that I'm gonna pair with the leftovers of this. I am so excited. I can't even tell you to get started on this. So my plan is to start the hat with the black yarn. I'm not gonna do ribbing. I'm just gonna do stockinette, unless Kent wants it, but I think he just wants stockinette. And I'm going to knit the entire half of the black side of the hat, the solid color. The reason I want to do that first is that will allow me to see exactly how many rows are in that side of the hat. Then I'll take the number of rows and I'll divide it by 31 because there are 31 colors, unless Kent doesn't want the pink yarns in there. So we'll figure that out, but I think he won't care. And then I will be able to tell myself, okay, if there are, let's say, this is not going to be true, but let's say there are 62 rows and I have 31 colors, then I'll do 2 rows of each color on the stripy side of the hat. I just think this is going to be the cutest thing ever, because even if he never wears it stripy side out, it will kind of be like one of those, like, you know, a nice suit or something that has a really fun lining. Nobody else knows that there's a lining in there except for you, and it like makes you feel cool and it makes it really fun and it makes it really special. So I am ecstatic to start this next muscle burrow hat. I can't wait for my yarn to get here. I will probably be starting it right away, even though it's not cold outside or anything and we're not going to need it for a while. I kind of would like to get that started so that once I'm done with this blanket, I can go ahead and work these yarns, and then from there, I think I will put my leftovers into a magic ball. This project section is really full this week, and I feel like I needed this weekend to just really like work on my projects and finish things up and start new things. I guess I've really gotten to do that 2 weekends in a row, and it's been just immensely satisfying and so good for me. Like, don't you feel that way too when you get to really put time into your projects and really work on things? It's more than just satisfying, it's like healing in a way. But I have started a new project. I have it here in my really fun pink sparkly bag from Black Pearl Magic that's got that iridescent zipper on it. I love these bags so much. They're so fun. And since I was going out to New Jersey this weekend, I didn't know if we would be on the beach or not. I put my project in this bag because it's waterproof. And I mean, okay, it's probably not going to work if it goes in the water, but like it's really easy to brush sand off the vinyl here and not worry about anything like any moisture getting to my project. So I was going out to my friend Amy's, and she messaged me a few days before I went out and just asked like, hey, do you want to start like a summer top together? And I had been thinking about starting a tank top with this particular yarn that I'm about to show you, and I hadn't settled on a pattern yet, but I was also kind of feeling like I should probably continue with my goal of starting my All of the Lights cardigan. But when I really thought about it, I just wasn't feeling like starting a big cabled cardigan at this point in the year. I really want to make stuff for warmer weather. Then my friend Bethany reached out, who is also knitting the All of the Lights cardigan. We kind of were like, hey, we're going to start together. There was a whole group of us in the Love and Stitches membership, so I've been feeling really guilty that I still haven't started my All of the Lights cardigan. But she reached out to me and she was just like, I saw like how you were talking about All of the Lights on the podcast, and I just wanted to let you know that if you don't start All of the Lights right now, or if you don't feel like making it right now, it is okay. And that was really nice because it gave me the permission I feel like that I wasn't letting myself have to just let that project go for a little bit. I can do it later and really start something that I'm excited to start right now. So it all kind of worked out, great timing, and this was a spontaneous sort of a cast on, even though I was thinking about starting a summer top of some sort. So this is the Ripple Camisole by Jessie Made Designs, and don't freak out, I know that it doesn't look like a top right now. Let me come back to it. Let's start actually with the yarn. So this yarn is from an Advent, actually. It was a 100 gram skein, but it was the last skein of the Advent from a homespun house in 2022. And this colorway is called Land of Sweets. And this yarn, what is it? 75/25 is so bouncy and so soft. I just knew I wanted it to be something really like comfy and something that I would wear all of the time. Kind of a basic, a staple. But it is kind of a bright color. I mean, I love pink, but it has a lot of different colors in it. So I knew it would need to be balanced with some kind of pattern that was a simple shape, a simple pattern, so that the yarn could really shine and it could be something wearable. I made a big giant swatch. This is a blocked swatch. I started out on a size 3 needle down here. And then, oh, can you see? There is a purl ridge where I switched needle sizes, and then I used a size 3 needle. Now, I don't know what I was thinking. I guess my brain was not working right, but I actually did not need to go down a needle size. My gauge was measuring too small. I really should have gone up a needle size. Again, I don't know what I was thinking, but that's okay. I ended up finding the gauge that I needed. And you can see this swatch has all of these wild and crazy loops in the back. That's because I did my fake swatch in the round here. This is not something that I came up with, although I do have a tutorial on how to do this. Basically, when you're swatching for a project that is made in the round or mostly in the round, you also want to do your swatch in the round, because when you're knitting flat, you're seeing both sides of the project, but when you're knitting in the round, you're just knitting on one side. So your swatch needs to match that, because for a lot of us, it changes our gauge slightly. So that you don't have to cast on a bunch of stitches to knit in the round, you can do this little fakey swatch where you knit one side and then slide back across your needles. You need circular needles for it. Then knit that same side again, slide it back across the needle, and you carry your yarn across the back. I used to not leave as much yarn on the back here because I would cut up my swatch and flatten it out. But I learned when I was in Texas in March this year, was it March? Yeah, in March this year in one of my sweater classes that I took, that if you leave, I mean, this makes sense, but if you leave a really long loop, you can still flatten your swatch on a blocking board, but then you don't have to cut your yarn. And if you don't have to cut your yarn, you can then reuse this yarn if needed, if you run out of yarn in your project. So I thought that was super smart, and I was like, okay, that's something that I need to do from now on. I also am trying to make bigger swatches. This is probably not the most perfect example, but it did give me the info I needed, which is that I needed a needle size 4 for this. Okay, so now let's go back to this, which pretty much looks like a hat. Oh, but how beautiful is the yarn knitting up, right? Oh my gosh. So look at this, how I'm knitting it, right? Compared to blocked, and how like wide the ribbing is and how stretched out the ribbing is. It also has a lot of stretch to it. And this pattern has a lot of negative ease. I think it has about 10, it recommends 8 to 10 inches of negative ease. So I have chosen to knit the size small. It is to fit a 30, I think it's like 32 to 36 inch bust. I don't remember exactly, but my bust is 34 inches. So I figured I would be doing well with a size small. My only concern is that my upper body, while it's really quite petite, my lower body is not, but this pattern is not really meant to go past the hips. So I figured I would be okay as long as it wasn't going super long. So I cast on the size small, decided to trust the pattern. And when I saw it coming out this small, I thought, okay, now I'm not so sure if I can trust the pattern. So I did a try on, not when it had quite this much fabric, but when it had a couple of inches, and you can see that it fits. It is looking pretty good. I do want to do another try on now that I've gotten a lot more out here. I just want to make sure like I'm liking the fit of it. When I tried it on originally, the fabric is definitely stretching, but it's not tight. It's not squeezing me. It's not looking overstretched. It's supposed to be that wide rib look. So I just want to make sure that I'm still liking how it's looking now that I've gotten this far. But I've already done so much this week. I would say I probably have maybe 5 inches once stretched out. It's a little bit more here, but then stretched out, it's maybe 5 inches, and I think it's looking so fun. So my friend Amy and I, we cast these on together, and we have been working on them together, and it's moving pretty fast, so I'm thinking it can get done. I'm not putting a timeline on it, but I'm thinking it can get done pretty quickly, especially if this was your only project. I think you could get this done super duper fast. So my plan for the future of this project is probably to do another try on in the next day or two, now that I have more fabric, just make sure I like the way that it's looking. Once I meet the measurement mark for the underarm, I am planning to block it. So take it off the needles, put it on tubing, block it, because when it stretches widthwise, it's gonna lose length. And I just wanna, like, instead of trying to predict that by stretching it out, I just wanna block it and see how it's actually going to be. So I'm gonna block it, then I'll be able to try it on and see like, okay, do I need maybe another inch or so to get a length that I like, up to the armpit that I like, and then we'll be cruising through the top. It's just got skinny straps. you know, separate and work each part of the front and back. So I am just thrilled with this. I've never, that's not true. I haven't made a tank top in a long time. I was gonna say I've never made one, but I haven't made one in a long time, and I'm really excited to make myself some summer knits. So hopefully this is just the first of many, and I can already see myself making a second one of this pattern in particular. I have one last project to show you, and this one is using some Sock Week 2023 products. So if you have not watched the sponsor reveal yet that came out on Tuesday, and you don't want to see any of the Sock Week products, I would recommend skipping ahead to the next segment, which is questions. I'm also probably going to show one Sock Week thing in questions, so just a warning, FYI, maybe pause here and go watch that reveal video. Okay, you've been warned, so I'm going to show my project bag. Okay, so this is a project bag for Sock Week 2023. All of the sponsored products are going on sale May 26, 2023. I'm not going to talk details about Sock Week. You can go watch the other video for that. But because everything is revealed, I am excited to start using these products and yarns for socks. So I've already shown some of these socks, but I couldn't show them in full color. I had to show them in black and white. And so I'm really excited to show you them again. I have decided I'm just gonna start working through each of these Sock Week socks. I've started 4 of them, but I am going to just work through them one at a time. I don't know if I'm going to complete a pair and then move on to the next one, or maybe complete one sock and then move on to the next one. I've just decided that I'm going to just pick one and it will be my sock until that sock is done, or I need to work on another sock for another reason. So let's talk about this one. This is just one of the Sock Week yarns. Again, May 26, 2023. This yarn is from Cesium Yarn, and it is called the Sea Slug Sock Set. So I have started a really cute little shorty sock. There is kind of a combination of patterns going on here. The first is that I'm using the Fish Lips Kiss Heel by Patty Joy White. You'll see that one tagged on my project page. But then I'm also using my Perfect Fit sock formula. But I'm putting the numbers for as far as how many rows I do and all of that in my Ravelry project page. So I think I've got like, ooh, you know what? Hold on, let me pull it up real quick and just make sure before I tell you. I started all these projects, all these sock projects without Ravelry project pages, so I didn't want it to go too long before I started the Ravelry project pages so that I can keep everything straight, because legit, like, I will be working on this and I'll go and refer to my own project page because I forget what I've done. So I cast on 56 stitches. I did 8 rounds of ribbing. And then for the leg here, it's a really small leg, I've done 12 rounds, but I did my Perfect Fit sock increases. So if you've taken that course, you'll know what that means for you. And then I did the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, and I am now working on the foot of the sock. I did a little bit of a gusset where I did some decreases, and now I'm just cruising on my foot all the way until I get to the toe. I think because 2 minis come with this sock set, I think I'm going to switch over to this beautiful red color for the toe and just make 2 matching shorty socks like this. The purple is definitely more me, which is why I think it's fun to have that pop at the top. But I will have plenty of yarn left over to make another pair of socks if I want to. So such a beautiful, beautiful yarn by Cesium. So these socks, they're just going to be something that I'm working on as needed. Since the weather is warm, I have been knitting on my walk to and from Pilates, which is usually 3 times per week. And of course, any out and about knitting that I need, or maybe movie theater knitting. So I have a feeling that this sock and all the other ones I started are going to get worked on pretty quickly. Okay, that's finally the end of the project segment this week. I hope I can continue to provide as many projects as possible for the next weeks, but I feel like sometimes that's how knitting and crochet are. There's a lot going on, and then it kind of like just maintenance, and then a lot of new stuff, and then just maintenance. So the ebb and flow is normal, and I want to keep up my stride with my knitting and crochet over the next few weeks. this is the part of the podcast where I answer your questions from the last podcast. So if you ever have any questions for me, whether they're related to the podcast, related to knitting or crochet or life or anything like that, just make sure to leave them in the comments down below on this podcast, but use hashtag question in the beginning of your comment so that I can search for it and look for it. While I'm not able to answer all of the questions every single week, know that I am reading through all of them. So if you don't get your question answered today, feel free to ask it again, and eventually I promise I will get to your questions. Okay, so let's start with question number 1. This is from Tasha. I have a question. How do you transport your yarn when you knit and walk? Thanks for the knitting inspiration. I got some new ideas for future projects. Okay, I love this question because you know I love knitting out and about. I love knitting and walking. It's not something I've always been able to do, but with a little bit of practice and the right setup, I have started using knitting and walking as something that just keeps me entertained, I guess, because I do a lot of walking here in New York, and it also keeps me calm in a way. Not that I'm necessarily like super stressed out when I go outside, but sometimes a podcast or like listening to music feels like too much sensory input, and so having knitting to just keep me like keep my breath steady or something, I don't know, it helps. And like, I love knitting, so why would I not knit at every opportunity that I possibly can? I am going to show you a couple of things that I use while knitting and walking. I don't always do the same setup, and it depends on the project, but I am going to be showing some sock week stuff again because I'm going to use the sock I just showed as an example, as well as one of our other products. So skip ahead a little bit, maybe 3 minutes or so to the next question if you don't want to see it. So most of the time I have this backpack. This is my purse. It is from Rebecca Minkoff. I don't know if they make them anymore, but it's basically just like a little leather backpack. I mean, any kind of bag you have will work. So the first thing that I do that doesn't require any really special equipment except for this one very affordable thing is I put a carabiner here on the strap of the backpack. Let me see if I can get it off. This one's a really small one. It actually came with my Beats headphones, and I liked it because it's small and it's the same color as my purse. So it really blends in. You can see it says Beats on there. I like it because it's the perfect size and it blends in. So it can just stay on my backpack strap all of the time and it doesn't bother me. Even when I'm not using it, it's just there, like you really can't even see it. So what I'll do with that is I will put a project bag and clip it onto here, because I find that most of the time my bag's already full. I always have like a water bottle and like a shopping bag. I just have all kinds of stuff in my purse. So it really helps to have my knitting outside of that. And then it also helps because I need to feed the yarn into my hands. So I will clip a project bag through the carabiner. It's a little bit, I usually try to do this before I walk out the door because it's not so easy to do once you're walking. There we go. So I'll clip the project bag onto there, and then I'll put my backpack on, I'll get my yarn, and it will just hang here by my side like this. The reason I really like this particular project bag, and this one is another Black Pearl Magic. Love Shayla stuff. I really like this one because of the straps. So if you have like a regular drawstring project bag, I wouldn't recommend it because what's going to happen as you walk is it's going to hit against you and then it's going to twist. It's going to go twist and twist and twist. And if it has those long ribbon straps, it's going to get really twisted. It's going to wrap your yarn up and it's going to drive you nuts. So straps like this are really great because they're thick. They usually don't twist around more than once. And also because there's straps on either side of the opening of the bag, it keeps things closed. So I can drawstring it, which allows my yarn to feed through, but I also have the security of 2 straps on the carabiner. So I really like using this particular project bag and the carabiner combination. This allows you to use like really any bag that you already have, even if you have like a shoulder bag, and you can clip your knitting on the outside or use the carabiner and let your project, if you have a bigger bag, like let the project bag be on the inside and it's still easy to feed from. Okay, now this is where I'm going to show the sock week stuff. Another thing that I really like are these yarn pockets. So this is a Sock Week sponsor product. This is from Cottontail Farms, but Chelsea already makes these, has already made these. I've had them before. She was a Sock Week sponsor. So you don't have to get this fabric. You can get, I would actually recommend getting more than one because you're gonna love them and it's just really nice to have them. So this is a really cute little, it fits a 100-gram skein. It has a leather strap that has a snap on it. So for this, back up here, I don't need the carabiner. I just take it, hold on, let me get my sock. Again, I do this before I leave the house. I just take it and I go around the strap of my backpack, again, whatever bag you have, and then it slides down and just kind of rests against me. So then I'm knitting and walking, right? And my yarn is feeding for me right here. What I really like about this, and why I will sometimes choose this over a project bag, come back into focus, is that it feeds really, really easily. If I already have a sock going and I know that I'm just walking somewhere and that's it, I will most of the time do this. So like when I'm walking to Pilates, this is what I'm using. The downside of this is that you don't have somewhere for your project to go when you don't want to work on your project. So for example, yesterday, all I was doing was walking straight to Pilates. It's a 20-minute walk. I can get quite a bit of knitting in while I do that, and it's great. I enjoy it so, so much. But it was extremely windy, and there was a second there where I wanted to do something on my phone, but I can't really do anything with my sock. I kind of have to hold on to it because it was so, so windy. I can like stick the needles in here like that, but I'm a little worried that my sock is going to fall. So I usually end up just holding it. So if I'm going to be out and about all day long and I'm doing multiple activities, not just walking, I will probably opt for the project bag because I can at least put my project fully away at that time. So I love these. These are all great options. Again, I'll do different stuff depending on what activity I have going on, but that is how I manage knitting and walking. And of course you have to have the right project, right? A small project that's not going to be too heavy, that you can work with. Okay, let me get set back up here. Let's see what other questions that we have. Question number 2 comes to us from Elizabeth. Hi, and thank you for another great podcast. My question is on the yarn cozies. What cast on method do you use? I've been using my normal go-to, the long tail cast on, but it flares out a bit. Not a big deal since it's ultimately on the bottom of the cozy, but was just curious because yours looks much better than mine. Okay, let's talk about these yarn cozies. So, oh, hold on. I've got other stuff tangled up in here. So the yarn cozy bottom, thank you for saying mine looks better, but I really think it still flares. So this is what the bottom of mine looks like. I actually use the long tail cast on as well. Not only do I use a long tail cast on, I actually cast on over 2 needles. So what that looks like is I will take my size 1 needles and I will smush them together like this, and I will use this as 1 needle and cast on over the 2 and then slide one out before I actually start knitting. I do that on the top of socks too. It just makes a consistent, stretchier long tail cast on, and it works really well for a lot of things. So not only am I doing the same cast on method as you, I'm actually making the cast on even bigger. I don't know if that, or looser I guess, I don't know if that helps it to not flare as much, but I think mine flare. And I don't think it's really a problem. So I don't really know the answer to that, but that's exactly what I do, is the long tail method. And it looks like this, and I think it works great. So for me, the long tail method I think is the best, and so you're probably good to just continue with that. Okay, next question is from, I don't know if it got cut off or what, but this question says, I really enjoy your videos, thank you. I love that you mix in some crochet. I've never really been interested in learning knitting before, mostly because I feel intimidated, if I'm being honest, LOL, but watching you has inspired me to want to learn. What is the best way to get started learning knitting? Do you think it's harder or easier for a crocheter to pick up? Thanks. Okay, I wish I knew your name. I'm so sorry. I think we did accidentally cut it off. But I'm really excited. that you are excited to learn to knit. I think it feels really powerful in the yarny world to be able to knit and crochet. I think it's totally fine if you only want to do one, if you prefer one. I would say that I'm more of a knitter than a crocheter, and like, that's okay. But I really love being able to do both because your options are then just limitless. You can do everything, all the projects that you see. And it's so fun because I think crochet and knitting create very different fabrics and they can be really useful in different items. So I'm excited for you. I think you're gonna love getting to learn how to knit. I do think that it will be a challenge, and the challenge will mostly be in your head. Because for me, I learned to knit first and then I learned to crochet, and it was really frustrating because I already felt good at knitting to be kind of humbled and go to a craft that I didn't know a lot about, and it was very awkward for me to work with. I think that since you crochet already, you will have a step up versus somebody who's never done either activity before. The language is a bit different, the stitches are different, the way you hold your yarn, the way you hold your tools are different, but you already have that knowledge of like how to read a pattern generally, how yarn works generally. So you already have a leg up, I think, in the knitting and crochet world. So as a crocheter, my guess is that if you are right-handed and hold the hook in your right hand, that you hold the yarn in your left hand. So when you are learning to knit, I would recommend doing the same thing. Use your both hands for your needles, of course, but hold the yarn in your left hand. This is probably going to feel most comfortable for you. And this technique is called continental knitting. So when you're looking up tutorials online, try to find somebody who is knitting holding the yarn in their left hand, or else you're going to get very confused. Another tip I have for you that I see a whole lot, especially with crocheters learning to knit, is be very, very careful. Pay super close attention to how you wrap your needle. If you wrap it in the opposite direction of the intended direction, you are going to get twisted knit stitches, and that can be hard to unlearn later on. So just be very careful in the direction in which you wrap your needle and the direction you go into a stitch. Continental knitting, I think you're going to be fine. I think it's going to feel really awkward at first, but just keep practicing it. Do like 10 or 20 minutes of knitting a day, and before you know it, you're going to feel very, very comfortable with knitting. As far as a first project goes, I don't know, something small, like kind of like when you learn to crochet, like maybe a dishcloth or something. I think a hat is always a really great project because it, takes you getting a lot of stitches cast on and started, but then you can just knit, knit, knit. And also just, I think something else I see frustrating to crocheters as they go into knitting is that you can't just rip out your stitches when you make a mistake. And I actually find the opposite to be frustrating. When I crochet and I've made a mistake on a row down below, I get frustrated that I can't just drop my stitches and fix things, and that I actually need to pull everything out to fix it. Or you can just add stitches in. I did that a lot on my baby blanket. I would find that I forgot a stitch somewhere and I would just add one in on the row above and in a place that you couldn't tell. So basically just be patient with yourself. I think you're gonna find that it is awkward at first, but it will be worth it. Just give it some time, and good luck. I am so excited for you. Our next question is from Blair. I love that you're knitting during therapy. I saw one of your stories on Insta and it was encouraging to see. I want to do this too, and I occasionally do when I have a super simple project, so I don't have to look down at it and potentially distract my therapist. Did you mention it to your therapist, or do you try to avoid it being noticeable that you're working on something? Okay, so I have recently, in the last month, started doing virtual therapy again, and it's been really great and it's been really helping me, but I like to have knitting during it. Sometimes I knit the whole time, sometimes I just hold my knitting, but it is an extreme comfort to me while I am broaching those difficult topics and talking to my therapist, and it also helps me to look forward to it because it's not just like you would think that if you are benefiting from therapy, you would always want to go to therapy, but that, for me at least, is not the case. And so knowing that I also get to knit for 45 minutes is kind of an encouragement for me. So to answer your question about does my therapist know? I actually asked her in our first session together. Those are being so cute. You're getting distracting, buddy. So I actually asked my therapist on our first session. I said something along the lines of like, I'm a knitter, knitting is a big comfort to me, I am planning to knit during therapy. Is that okay with you? I don't even know if I said, is that okay? Or like, I just wanted to let you know and make sure that was okay. If my therapist had said that that was not okay, to me, that was going to be a sign that they were not a good fit for me. I think that your therapist, if they have been like, I don't know, I feel like your therapist should be understanding of the tools that you need to work through the things that you are going through. And of course, if your knitting is a major distraction and you're not even hearing them or able to talk, then you shouldn't be knitting during therapy. But it sounds like for you, you can do it without even looking. I mean, I'm looking down at my knitting some of the time during therapy, at least a little bit. But my therapist was like, yeah, that's no problem. That's totally fine. So knitting is never something that we talk about. She doesn't ask me about my projects. It's just something that I'm doing. It's just a way to keep me calm and comforted while we're on our sessions. If I find myself again sometimes like I'm not even working on it, it's just in my lap, but it's nice to have that there when I am able to work on it and keep me calm. Oh man, there was something else I was thinking about. My guess is that your therapist already knows that you're knitting because even as much as we try to hide it, it is the therapist is there for you. Oh, this is what you said. Distract your therapist. You are not going to distract your therapist. Your therapist is there to help you. I think you should bring it up. I think you should say that you're going to do it, and just so they know, and then it won't be anything that they're even thinking of. But my guess is that they already know that you're doing something because they are there watching you the whole time. Your therapist is there to help you. It is a relationship though, and if they say no, you cannot knit, then I would think about maybe finding somebody else. That is my honest opinion. All right, last question here from Martine. Love your podcast. Can you tell us about your favorite sweater or cardigan that you have ever knitted? Honestly, my mind was blown when you said you knitted the sleeves before the body on your citrine light. Don't know why I never thought of that. Have done that on my current knit. Love from New Zealand. I just opened up my sweater drawer and grabbed the first sweater that came to mind as my favorite, and it was not hard to pick. This is my Something Cozy. It is by Shayna Billow, and I knit this last year. Let me see the dates. I knit it in May of 2022. And let me tell you, it is so cozy. This yarn is Chelsea Luxe. There's two yarns actually held together. And it is the Luxe Cozy, which is like a boucle. And the colorway is Chelsea's Coupe. And then the Luxe Mohair in Rose Gold. So I don't know if you can see, maybe if I get in close, yeah, you can kind of see like two. It's double stranded in some places, but this, I don't know. It was such a joy to knit, but most of all, I wear it all the time. It is so cozy, as the name implies. It's just a boxy fit, super cropped. You can make it longer if you want. I found I had plenty of yarn. It was easy, it was fun, and it's just like truly something that you want to put on as just one last thing to like feel cozy while you're out and about. I don't really wear it at home very often, but I do find that whenever I'm going out somewhere and I want to be comfortable and warm, this is something that I throw on. So I have lots of things that I'm proud of that I knit, but I would say this one is actually the one that I wear most of the time and have loved and enjoyed the most. If I lost this, I would absolutely remake it so that I had this in my wardrobe. All right, if you have questions for me, remember, put them down below with #question in the front, and I will answer more next week. The big news this week is that the Sock Week 2023 sponsors have finally been revealed. I did a premiere video on Tuesday, so if you haven't gone and watched that yet, make sure to go and watch it. You'll get to see all of the products revealed throughout the video, as well as details about what is coming up for Sock Week. If you participated with us last year, all of the rules are the same. Nothing really has changed in that regard, but we do have 13 amazing sponsors, and we actually have 15 sponsors, really. I kind of forgot to include our pattern designers in that. So we really have a lot of people participating in Sock Week this year, and it's going to be so much fun and so incredible. I'll have more details coming very soon, but that is the new video for this week. Coming up next week, I am going to be kind of giving a history of my muscle burrow hats. I'm really excited to share this one because I have knit 6 muscle burrow hats in the last 2 years, and they're all different from each other. So it was really fun for me personally to actually sit down and have them all out, share them with you in chronological order, kind of share like why I did each one the way that I did, and then share the things that I've learned, what I like most, which ones I would kind of recreate and change. You already know now that I'm planning to do another muscle burrow hat, my 7th with the Pokemon yarn. So, you know, I just feel like the possibilities are endless with that hat, and I can't wait to show all of my hats in this concise way. So that one's coming up next week. It'll be really, really fun. The Cozy Along 2023 is continuing through the end of May, through May 31st. Don't forget to make sure to submit your finished cozies. Each time you finish a cozy, just go ahead and fill out the form. It's linked down below. It's linked in my Instagram bio. Fill out a form and you will be entered to win one of our 3 prizes. I am hoping to show the prizes again on next week's podcast in case you missed it, but if you want to see them, there was a live Cozy Along kickoff a couple weeks ago and you can see them there. The last thing is just a little bit more about Sock Week. Again, all that stuff is in the reveal video, but go ahead and mark your calendar for Friday, May 26th. This is when our shop updates are happening. So every single sponsor for Sock Week will have their products go live in their individual shops. But we're doing a staggered update this year. So at 11 a.m. on Friday, May 26th, all of our accessory items are going on sale. Then at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, all of our bags are going on sale. Then at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, all of the yarn is going on sale. It is my suggestion to you that if you really want something, that you are there right on the dot, set yourself an alarm, get yourself logged into PayPal, logged into Etsy, or have your credit card ready, whatever you need to do so that it's just really quick and easy for you to grab the item that you want. What tends to happen, at least in past years, is that everything will sell out on the first day, and then our shops will kind of reevaluate, see, you know, how, if they're able to fill more orders, and then they'll let me know. And then over the next few days and weeks, I will be sharing on Instagram if any more items are available. So if you really want something and you really want it to come in time for Sock Week, I would be there on that first day ready to place your order. Some of our shops are going to have ready to ship and a pre-order, so just pay attention when you're ordering those things. Again, every shop will be a little bit different, and that's why we're doing them staggered. So hopefully you can grab one thing in each category, one accessory, one bag, one yarn, and then if that works out, grab your other thing. I'm thinking this is going to help a lot this year with the massive amount of shops that we have participating. I think it's going to be really fun, and I am so excited for it. We really just had a blast over the last week. We got to go out of town, got a couple days off. It was just really, really nice. So starting with last Thursday, I think it was, Kit and I usually try to get out of the house and have a work meeting / life meeting once a week and go to a coffee shop. We are both here all of the time, working together, living together. And so it's nice just to get out and do something and have that kind of standing date for the two of us. So we went to a new to us coffee shop. called Bird and Branch, and that was really, really nice. It was not too far away from us, but far enough that we got a little bit of a walk-in. They had a lot of outdoor seating, so we got to sit outside, and then they had all these yummy and delicious drinks. I don't know why, it feels like I've already told this story, so if I said this in the last podcast, forgive me. Sometimes I feel like I share the same things a lot of the time, but I don't know. Maybe it was on something else, but it was delicious, and I will be going back there. Bird and Branch, it's in Midtown. If you're ever around in the area going to a show or something, you should check it out. On Friday, I went out to my friend Amy's. Her and her husband came and picked me and Toaster up, and we went out and we had a lovely lunch that day. We watched like a million episodes of Love is Blind. I crocheted on my blanket. I swatched for the tank that day and then got it soaking. It was just a really lovely time. Kent didn't join us right away because he was actually here going to a concert in Manhattan, and then he took the train out later that night. So on Saturday, we were all out there together at Amy's house. We got our tanks cast on Saturday, which was really fun. And then Saturday night, we actually all went to the same person that Kent saw on Friday night. He loves Frank Turner so much that he wanted to see him both places here in New York and also in New Jersey. So all four of us, we got a nice dinner, and then we went to an outdoor venue called the Stone Pony in New Jersey that if you're from there, you may know. And we went to the Frank Turner concert. Amy and I were still knitting away on our camisoles during the concert. I think for me, that was a first, knitting at a concert. And we had one guy who kind of leaned over and he was like, wow, that's really cool. Like, what are you guys doing? He's like, what are you doing? Are you crocheting? Are you sewing? I'm like, oh, we're knitting. And so he thought that was really fascinating and really interesting. So that was nice to have that positive interaction with our projects. It was really fun. And then on Sunday, it was Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. I think we just had I'm trying to remember, we just had a casual day. Honestly, when the weekend starts on Friday, it's like everything just feels so good, and we weren't trying to rush off and do anything. So we played some mahjong, I think, had some food. I don't even remember. I don't even remember exactly what we did. It was really, really great. Toaster was there with us the whole time. One day we went to a coffee shop, and Toaster came with us and sat outside. It was so cute. He loves going and visiting Amy and her dog, so it was a great time. Monday, they brought me back into the city, and Kent actually decided to take a last-minute flight out to Dallas to go watch the Dallas Stars play at home, and this was potentially their last game of the season, and they won, so now they're moving on in the hockey playoffs stuff. And so Kent was really excited to see all of his friends and go. The friends that he went to the game with have been friends that they've had season tickets with to the Dallas Stars for a few years. So it's fun for him to go back and get to do that. But that also meant that I was here on Monday all by myself. And Kent and I had already planned to take the day off that day. So at first I was thinking, well, I should get some stuff done. I should do some organizing, some cleaning, some work. And then I was like, no, I'm going to just take the day off and enjoy my day. I am going to go to Central Park. It was a beautiful day. It was not hot, which was nice, but it was sunny and warm, and it was great. Everyone was outside except that it was a Monday. So I came home, I got unpacked, and then I was like, I'm off. I'm out of here. I'm not going to worry about doing anything else today. So I walked, it's about a 2-mile walk to where I like to go into Central Park. I got myself a Levain cookie and a latte. I texted my friend Maddie that lives around there, and I was like, hey, I know it's 3 o'clock on a Monday, but I'm going to Central Park if you want to join. And she's like, I can come in an hour. So I spent an hour or so by myself, and then she came and joined me. We sat and we chatted and knitted. She was knitting this beautiful version of the pressed flower shawl with her hand spun yarn. Oh my gosh, it was so pretty. I did not get a picture of it. I should have asked her for a photo, but it was so cool. And it was just a really lovely day. And then Kent came back the next night. And so yeah, now we're to today. It's been a really, really full and amazing last week. Okay, I have been reading. I finally finished Advika and the Hollywood Wives by Kirthana Ramisetti, and that was one of my Book of the Month books, so it was a hardcover. I will say that I wouldn't recommend this book. It wasn't bad, but it really wasn't that great. I don't know what it was about it. I think it was mostly just the plot in general. I just didn't enjoy it. It was kind of awkward. It made me uncomfortable. It was kind of slow, and I'm glad I finished it, but I wouldn't probably recommend it to anyone. That happens sometimes with books. Sometimes it's just not the right book for me personally, so you can go and read up on it and see if it's something that sounds good for you. But since I knew we were going to be in New Jersey, when I was there last time, I had seen one of those little free libraries, which is like, they kind of put them in different towns and stuff. I haven't seen any here in Manhattan. I'm guessing there are some, and there's probably some in Brooklyn, but Brooklyn is like an hour away from me, so I'm not going to go all the way to Brooklyn just to drop off a book, but I will take it all the way to New Jersey. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be in New Jersey this weekend. I'm done with the book. And usually, like my last Book of the Month book, I had a friend who wanted to borrow it, so I gave it to her, and then now she can take it to the little free library or pass it on to somebody else. But this one, again, not really recommending it, so I took it with me. I put it in the little free library one day when we got our coffee, so now that is out of the house, not causing any clutter. It feels really good, and I am really excited to start my next Book of the Month books that I shared last week. So I want to finish the book that I'm currently reading first. So I'm almost done. I'm so close. I thought I could finish it before the podcast today, but not really a big deal. I am reading Death by Cashmere by Sally Goldenbaum. It is the first book in the Seaside Knitters Society, I think that's what the series is called, and I'm enjoying it. I wouldn't say I love it as much as the Maggie Sefton books. That was also a knitting murder mystery, but I am liking it. I don't know who did it. It is puzzling me, which I also enjoy, and I'm getting to learn to love the characters and know them. You can also tell in this book series that either the author did an amazing amount of research or they're actually a knitter, because the knitting things that they're talking about are like, you would have to be a knitter to like know these things. I don't know. I think it's kind of fun to have knitting integrated into the book and be a part of it, but it's also not the main story. The main story is figuring out this murder mystery. I think for me, what I'm not loving as much in these books is that there's a lot of characters to get to know. So that can be a little bit confusing. And then we're not really getting the story from one point of view necessarily, like we sort of are, whereas in the Maggie Sefton books, we were really just following one person all throughout the series, and so you really got to know and love and understand her. I don't know, I can't think of her name right now. I've lost it. And then the other thing about these books is they focus a lot on the murder itself, like it's in everything, whereas I feel like Toaster, I feel like in the Maggie Sefton series, we were given a reprieve from the murder and we got to just do some character building and storyline stuff too. But that's okay. I'm enjoying them. I will probably read more of them. But after I finish this book, I am planning to go on to my next Book of the Month book. Our tip of the week actually comes to us from a podcast viewer. So thank you, Casey, for sharing this tip. Casey reached out to me via email and gave me this tip about Musselburgh hats. I am also going to be sharing this in the Musselburgh video, and I made sure to ask Casey first if it was okay to share with all of you. So for the Musselburgh hat, let's talk about the intended instruction is to start at one crown, then you increase, you work a huge giant tube all at the same stitch count, and then you decrease on the other side. What Casey suggested, and that's something that she does, is she will not start at the crown. Instead, she will start right here and cast on all of the stitches needed for the main part of the hat using a provisional cast on. Provisional is a type of cast on that you can then go and pull out and pick up your live stitches after the fact. So she'll do a provisional cast on with the full stitch count, knit the entire tube, do the crown, and then making sure she has enough yarn left over, will come back and do the other crown. So she'll pick up the stitches and then do a second crown that has decreases. So the benefit is that both crowns will match. Both will have decreases instead of one having increases and one having decreases. Siri, stop listening to me. I don't know why it's listening. But the main reason that she reached out and let me know was that I was having a hard time using up as much yarn as possible. So when you do this provisional cast on method, you can use up even more yarn than having to kind of like figure out the middle. So I know that I need 8 grams for each crown. So in theory, I could cast on here. I could knit until I had maybe 18 grams left because I do want to have a little bit extra. That would give me enough to finish 8 grams here and then finish 8 grams here with a little bit of wiggle room. That way I wouldn't have to keep measuring like all throughout my hat how much that I actually need. Another thing that I thought of is if you have a short skein, you don't have 100 grams, but you want to use as much as possible, you could cast on with provisional, knit as long as you can on the tube, leaving yourself, you know, I don't know what size you're making, but maybe 10 to 12 grams for the crown. Finish the crown, then you could go back on this side and actually use a completely different color if needed. So you could grab another color yarn, you could knit that for if you needed a little more length and then knit that for the crown, and that could be the part of the hat that's on the inside that you don't even see. One last benefit to casting on with provisional is that you can get started after the cast on, of course, pretty much right away on just a tube, which is a lot easier for out and about knitting. So if you're like, I don't want to fuss with the crown, I'll just cast on provisionally real quick and get started, you can do that. I just thought that was a really smart tip for the Musselburgh hat, and I had to share it with you. Again, thank you, Casey, for sharing that tip with me. All right, everyone, that's the end of our episode today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!